against Dracula H9, rated 2000. We're going to go with probably the Binko Gambit if he plays D5. Okay, we're going to go with the Binko Gambit for fun here. How long did it take you to get where you are today? I started playing at about the age of 10, so it's been about 12 years. And pretty much ever since the start I was playing competitively, like in tournaments, so I guess 12 years to get where I am today. It could have definitely been, fast-forwarded to some degree, though. Coaching would have helped. Let's push the pawn here and stop that. It can definitely, you can get to this level in shorter than 12 years. It's definitely possible. Alright, so we're going to take b5 pretty soon. We're down a pawn. That's the whole point of this opening, though. And it's all about pressure on the queen side here. Our bishop is pressuring the queen side. Our rook is hitting the a2 pawn. And that's, kind of the name of the game here. So we're going to play bishop a6. Trade off the bishop here and take back with the knight, most likely. Okay, we'll take there. He has to take with the knight. The a-pawn is pinned. Then we'll play knight d7 to b6 to hit the d5 pawn. Knight b6. If he plays a5, we have knight to c4. Or he can give us a free d5 pawn. I guess that's okay. We'll take this way. And Exicom98, thanks for the follow as well. I think I missed you a little bit earlier. And Martial Arts. And yeah, thanks for the follows, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying it. So we got our pawn back. Usually in this opening, when you win your pawn back, you usually have a much better position, just because of your pressure on the queen side. So the question is, do I trade knights? Or I could also just play knight to b4. I think trading is okay. He'll take back with his knight. Oh, no, he doesn't. Wow, that's interesting. So we're just going to play knight d7. Keep the pressure up on this c3 pawn. And we're probably just going to double pieces on the a-file and attack this a-pawn. Rook a5 and queen a8. Some kind of combination of that. Hikaru's crushing him? Yeah, I would assume so. Hikaru, best bullet player in the world by a long shot, I'd say. Unless Carlsen's playing or something like that. Okay, so just rook a5, queen a8 next move. Hit the a-pawn. Knight b4 keeps the pressure. Yeah, so knight b4 was also possible for sure. Queen a8 hitting the pawn. Also, we are hitting the e4 pawn a little bit. So he has to play queen c2 to guard the pawn. I think that's the only move. And then we'll just play knight b6. And I think we're picking up the a-pawn. I don't think there's any way he can stop us from eventually getting it. Alright, he plays e5. Trying to mix things up, I guess. I think I can just take the e5 pawn. I'll get the a-pawn anyways, but I think taking e5 is perfectly fine. I guess I can just push it? Is that okay? Seems okay. Yeah, I think pushing it's okay. I don't see any downside here. Yeah, if he ever does knight c7, it's just attacking the queen. It's not like it's winning anything. I'll just play queen c6 if he does knight c7 here. Anything else, I'm probably just going to take the pawn. If he does knight c7, queen c6. Yeah, he can get knight d5. Knight c7, queen c6, knight d5. But I can always play e6 to kick the knight out. So the knight's not stuck on d5 or anything like that. I can play e6 to kick it out. So I'm probably just going to play knight f6 next move to guard the pawn, and then just go about attacking e4 again. Or, I'm sorry, a4 again. Okay, so he attacks it. We're going queen c6. The only check he has is queen b2 check, and it's not like it's attacking anything, I don't think. So we're just going to play e6 first to hit this knight. If he checks, we're just going to play f6. Definitely can't move the king. If king e8, he has like knight e7 mate. That's not fun. So now he has to move the knight back to c3, and I'll play like rook b8, and my pieces are just going to start getting into his position. I haven't played chess in a few days. It's showing. Okay, so now we just play rook b8, hit the queen, he'll go to c2, or that. Okay, I guess we just play f5 to guard the pawn. Next, knight f6, probably. Yeah, knight f6. And we'll just play like rook b3 to hit the knight, or rook b4. He wants to play rook d6, it looks like. I think I can just take this pawn, though. We're gonna be very safe here. Probably a little too safe. We're gonna play knight e8 to keep the rook off d6. He'll check, we'll just retreat, no problem. He might hop into e5. Yeah, And we're just gonna play rook back. And we're gonna play rook a8 next move. He'll probably play knight d6 here. Probably. And then I'll play knight c7, I believe. Keep e6 defended. And then play rook f8 next move. I gotta guard my king side a bit here. And then I'll pick up the pawn. Once I kind of got to shore up things a little bit here, and then I can use my extra material to win. Is the main idea here. Knight b5 again. If he goes d6, might we take a draw? I'm not sure. I don't really want to draw. Oh, okay. Alright, let's try to trade off some rooks here, I guess. We're going to take the pawn. Go back. Go here. Now we're just going to go here. Trade off the rooks. He picks up the pawn, that's okay. He's going to pick up that pawn as well, but now I actually have a checkmate threat if he takes my c5 pawn. Okay, so we have check now. Knight g4 check. Queen check. Queen check again. And then queen h2 here is checkmate. Okay, so he definitely doesn't need to take the c5 pawn. But I'm still up a pawn. My position's not necessarily comfortable, but he should play like knight d6. And then I'll just play like king g8, and I'm not comfortable, but I'm still, hanging in there and things like that. So let's analyze that. Alright, and I flip the board. So d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5. I played b5, which is the Binko gambit. Takes a6, e3. E3 is possible. Lots of other moves are optional here too. B6, take the pawn, knight C3, F3. Lots of different options here. So E3 is one of them. We continue with our kingside development. We eventually capture and trade off the bishops. So I'm down a pawn here, which is kind of the main point of the opening. But I have a lot of pressure on the queen side. And the d5 pawn, as we saw, is a bit pressured as well. So knight d7, knight c3, knight b6, queen e2. Queen e2 is a mistake. He needs to probably play e4 first to keep this guarded. Queen e2 allows me just to grab the pawn. Knight b4 could have maybe been a little bit better, keeping the pressure on some squares and maybe coming back in this direction. But I think trading is okay as well. He pretty much has to go for this e5 kind of, like, I wouldn't say last ditch, but his position is not very good even after queen c2. We just play knight b6 and then pick up the a4 pawn. So he kind of has to mix things up here a bit, no matter the cost type thing. So it takes c4, e4, take, knight c7, knight d5, e6, check, f6, knight c3, rook b8, queen e2, f5. I probably don't need to play f5. This does open up my king a little bit. Probably just rook to b3 is okay. Attack the knight. If the knight takes, then we just take here. That might have been a little bit safer. f5 does hold on to the pawn, though. So f5, rook to d1, knight f6, knight b5. It's a little annoying to let him play rook to d6. For example, if I take the pawn, he goes here. I retreat, keep that defended, but he plays knight c7, and now he picks up one of these. Queen e7, check here, check, retreat here. It's still even. I'm up a pawn, but I feel like white's definitely a little bit better here, mainly because of how good his pieces are compared to my pieces. So I just decided to play knight e8 to keep the rook off d6. Queen check, move, queen e5. He's definitely getting into my position, though. I was honestly not that averse to a draw here, because I can't really just guard this, or he still does this rook d6 stuff. So I have to keep playing knight e8 to stop the rook from going to d6. And if he had wanted to just keep repeating, he's threatening the pawn is the big problem. So I have to keep guarding the pawn. If I take here, he does this and then checks, and he gets his pawn back with the better position. So I would have been actually okay with the draw at that point. Sometimes you need to know when a draw is okay, or when to be okay with a draw, and when to push for a win. In a point like that, my position is actually taking a little bit of a turn for the worse, but it's still could have been a draw. Rook d8, we exchange stuff, I pick up a pawn, rook a8, h5, queen b6, rook there, rook d8, trade off, check again. So I'm still up a pawn here. As we saw, taking this immediately loses. He should have just played like knight d6. I play king g8, maybe. Or maybe just queen to d7 or something like that. This should be... It's maybe even a little bit better for him, but it should still be fairly doable for myself, and should be okay. But unfortunately, he played queen takes pawn, which falls into the series of checks that leads into the checkmate. Thank you, little e4 pawn holding that f3 square. Okay, so it looks like Hikaru finished up his series. Let's see.